Hello, everybody, and thank you for watching the Storytelling Alchemist show here on the Los Angeles Tribune. We are here weekly at 10 p.m. Eastern. So, very excited about my guest coming on tonight. We have been good friends for I don't even know if I can add that high. It's been about 16 years, something like that. It's been a while. And so we are going to be talking about perspectives and experience. And so I'm going to kind of get deep into this conversation. So I think it'll be great, a great topic. But I'd like to welcome my friend and mentor, Virginia Drake. And I just know you're going to love this topic. It's going to be a good one. So hi, Virginia. How are you?
I am fine. How are you? Little bit with the laryngitis, but I'm good.
Well, that's you went down to Florida and then came
Yes,
back into the probably is a little cool out in Kentucky when you got back.
yes, very much cool. We went from the 80s to the 40s. So
Oh
yeah,
goodness.
yeah. But
Well,
it
it was
was all
cold
about
when I
that. It was
left.
a lot, it was a lot of stuff like we were talking. Yeah, I heard you just say perspective. A lot of this is perspective that we have discussed that I had a different perspective. And that's what I was telling you with some of the people I was with, they had a different frequency going on, and I had a different, and I was talking about Greece and they were in Rome. That's exactly the way I felt. Our perspective was definitely not connected. So that that was a lot of this too. So we all get to learn a lot about ourselves,
Yeah,
about what's going on,
absolutely.
even
Absolutely.
in laryngitis.
Well, that's not we don't want the LA Tribune logo there. We'll play around with that a little bit. But
That's okay.
um so thinking about perspective, I was just thinking about a story about me last night. I was boarding my plane and I told you about this story this morning. And Southwest Airlines is a basically it's a general boarding, but they give you like boarding groups. And I had checked in late because I was busy the day before, and so I got on the boarding group C. So I was literally like, "Oh man, I'm gonna end up with a bad seat," and so I had to really kind of change my perspective. I'd be like, this is just what I can talk about with everybody, and I practice with myself. I'm like, no, don't put that out there. It'll all be perfect. So, but I end up getting on the plane, and you get on my C boarding thing, and I'm like, just following what I knew is the right thing to do. And I went to put my bag up the very first place I seen because it's full flight, and I was getting ready to get into the middle seat because I thought that was what I was going to have to do because I had checked in late the day before. And so this lady goes, "You can't sit there." And I'm like, why? And she said, I've never heard anybody tell me I can't sit in a middle seat before. So she goes, I said, "Well, I need to sit somewhere." She goes, "You can't sit there." And I was like, "Why?" And she goes, "Well, he wants his wife to sit next to him. She's not on yet." And the thing about Southwest is if you don't get a seat, you could potentially not fly. And so, because they've overbooked before. So, anyways, at first I started to get a little heated, and but when he said wife, I was just like, okay, you know, and immediately the little trigger there, I was like, stop, it's gonna be perfect. And so then I started walking back to the plane, and right there was a aisle seat where I was gonna have plenty of leg room and plenty of space. I'm 6'5", and so I thought to myself, perspective, right? So it really just changed like right in that moment. And I'm like, okay, and I was getting ready to get stressed about it. And it wasn't anything to be stressed about in the first place. And that's what made it kind of funny to me.
Well, that was about its experience. That's an experience in the now
Yeah.
because you are and we were talking about this. You disciplined your mind not to go the opposite side of what it normally would by getting upset, getting frustrated, creating a chemical electrical charge that would not be, beneficial to you or anybody else around you.
Right.
But what you did, you had disciplined that charge.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we were talking about that this morning or this afternoon, I don't remember. But when you said, I think everything changed, and I said, did you ever think you changed?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we said that, And we need to explain that you were talking, explain what you said you had felt
We're
with that.
right because there was this immediately swelling up, and this is the part we have to change. We have to change that frequency that comes in, or that charge that comes in. That's going to say that gets us upset. Because what happens is if that charge comes, it's gonna create something different. So then I might have gotten booted off the plane, because they were too full or whatever, or I would have gotten a middle seat and had been stuck between two big guys like
Or
myself,
you,
and
or you
you
couldn't
know,
have gotten that on at all because
yeah,
you already blocked yourself.
right. And so instead, I got exactly what I wanted, an aisle seat. Where I could stretch out my legs. Everything was a perfect flight. I was next to these nice people,
Yeah.
and they were just very sweet. They're quiet, and I was exhausted. I'd just been on this trip, so that's the thing is like that thought where I was starting to get annoyed with this woman because she was like, "You can't sit there." And so we have a choice right in that moment to say, "Wait a second, am I going to get upset here, or am I going to change this?" And as soon as you change it, if we want to talk about law of attraction, we can change it just like that because you have a choice. And
That's
so
right.
and so that's what we were chatting about this morning. And we don't necessarily always make that choice. We get caught up in the it's not that I don't think we consciously don't get to make the choice, but we haven't practiced enough. And you were talking about just before we came on, the Buddhists teach about disciplining the mind.
Yes. Yes. It takes a long time to discipline your mind. And I realize that more and more that I have practiced. And I've been practicing for a long time. So, but you discipline a little bit of yourself every moment. I mean, I've been going through some different things about, just different things, everyday things. But I have recognized how that feels in my body. This is probably why the laryngitis is because there was a moment in my vacation and in my time with my friends is I held back. But
Mm-hmm.
boy, when I finally said what I felt, and it had nothing to do with them, it was everything about me. That's my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But by me holding that perspective so close to the vest and not telling anybody about it, nobody could ever learn about what was going on anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying is our perceptions are very important, but we also need to share those perceptions,
Mm-hmm.
find out if we really are. And that's where I came up with the collective illusion, because
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot that we've been given a perspective. And we can do this with COVID. We got a perspective. We got a rundown of what we thought it was. That is, we didn't know for fact what it was, but we trusted someone. And if you have trust issues, such one like me, I had a real hard time with the collective illusion, or what
Mm-hmm.
they were, perspecting, what their perspective was. So when you really understand who you are in this, your perspective will change, but also you will recognize the truth in that perception.
Yeah, yeah, and that actually happened at work recently, and you and I were chatting about this over the past week, and I had real quick, we had a comment here. Um, it was the lady was a passenger, so she wasn't a flight attendant. Just to kind of clarify that story, but the part about this at work is I really started analyzing the situation because I've had this person that's been rude to myself and my staff. And so I really started, and when I really started processing it, I was like, hmm. So where is it? Because I love the saying that 90% of disagreements happen as a result of a misunderstanding, and 10% is because of a difference in moral or values. And so that means that 90% of the time it's because we're not communicating with each other. So that's a perspective. So my
Exactly.
perspective may be this, and the other person's perspective be this. And so when I really started looking at it, and then started consulting with other people, they said, well, did you ever think about maybe they are they have one idea and you have another idea? And then started looking at the corporate initiatives for this year, and basically how they've basically defined something, and we're like, ooh, that you could really take that and come up with a lot of different ideas of what that is. So it's not clear. So all these people are trying to work with good intentions, with their perspective. And so, but how often does that happen in our lives where we're all working? How many times in couples where they get into fights because one person thinks one thing, the other person one thing, and they're both very well intended, but they're getting their feelings hurt. They're getting, instead of just doing what you and I have talked about many times, talking to each other.
right, and being honest. But another way, and you and I know this very well, is the energy of the heart.
Hmm.
If you are, if doesn't matter, you know, like the people I was with, the three people I was with at that day, she had there was all three of us. There was one who had their perspective in one another place, but we're all in the same room. But she was in another place, and then another one was in another place, and I was in another place. But all three of us were in the same place. But all three of us were in our minds in a three different place. So this is where another thing goes when you got people sitting right there in front of you, but they're not present.
Hmm. What's that
And
old What's that old book that says men are from Mars and women are from Venus? I
yeah,
can't remember the title. Like, I probably got it wrong, but it just means that we're all thinking differently and feeling
well,
things
and it's
differently.
because we're not listening.
Hmm.
We truly are not listening to what, because we are so informative about everything that's going on. We don't know how to focus in. But one thing, and you know this as well as I do, because it's energy. It's about our heart. You and I can go into a room together. We don't even talk to each other. We haven't talked to each other for quite a while. And I come in and I can sit down. You and I start talking, and then there's a direct connection of our spirit.
Hmm.
Then there's nothing there, but we don't even, sometimes we can sit on the couch together and we don't even talk. But
Oh
we,
yeah, we will do that for hours at a time.
yeah. So that's a different kind of perspective, but it's been addressed by our perspectives. Does that make sense?
It
Like,
does. It does.
yeah, we have really addressed our time together. And we have really kept that very clear, very honest. And if
Hmm.
there's something that's coming on that, it's bothered one of us, all we have to do is say it. The other one already knows because we're so connected anyway, it doesn't shock us.
Well, yeah, and let's talk about that for a little bit because I want to make sure everybody's clear on that. So, like, what we're talking about is that Virginia or Ginny, we've known each other since 2008. So I guess it's not quite 16 years, probably like 14 years. But we've known each other. We've done a lot of things together. We've taught a lot of classes together, all that kind of stuff. And what she's talking about is we've literally sat on the couch, and we're so close as friends that we don't need to ever say something. And sometimes we'll be talking in a deep conversation, and I'll be pondering something, or she'll be pondering something, and the other one will be talking. So it could be, if we hadn't known each other so well, I've done the work that we've done, we could get offended. We'd be like, well, are you hearing what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Earth to Jenny, are you with me? And instead, I just know that she's pondering. She's actually processing what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, and so that is something that we develop over time because we've done so much work together.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of that the conversation that I told you about with Tina, a friend of mine named Tina. And remember when she talked about different levels, types of friends?
Right.
And so she was talking about the dear friends, the ones in your inner circle, and then you have good friends. And what she was meaning is the dear friends, the ones that are in her circle. Those are a few people. Those are the ones. Those are your ride or dies. And the ride or dies are people that you've been through stuff with. You've been through heartache with. I mean, you and I have been through. You've had some things happen to you. You've had your daughter-in-law, that
Yeah.
had went that my mother, and all these things that are, we just know how each other responds
And
to
we
things.
always end up get
Right.
together.
Right. And so, but there are other people you might not know. Somebody say, because you don't know their reactions to things, and you might get your feelings hurt or offended. But how do you change that? You go and you say, "Hey, what did you mean by that?"
Yeah. Exactly.
Before you get offended, as you start to feel those feelings coming up, you actually go and ask. So, because your perspective may be off, and it's not you're a bad person, your perspective's off. Your perspective comes in because of your experience and
Right.
because of your understanding. And so, And that's the one thing that we don't do. We don't go and talk to each other and say, "Hey, where did that come from?" What? Because I never judge somebody until I understand their intention.
Exactly.
And they may be like, "Well, I said it because I want to, I don't like what you're doing." And I'll be like, "Okay,
Oh,
well, let's talk about
yeah.
that."
That's
So
a whole new conversation.
that's a whole new conversation. Or I didn't like that outfit you were wearing.
Yeah.
And oh, here's so it is all about communication. Absolutely, David.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then Billy said, I work with traumatized dogs using CBT, cognitive behavioral therapies, because it builds on a bond and changes perception to change behavior. Their perspective based on experiences is what is driving the behavior. So we need to focus on changing the perspective, not changing the behavior. Oh,
So,
that's a good one. Absolutely.
yeah.
So,
That discipline, that's a discipline. That's a doing it. Yeah.
yeah, I imagine, Billy, that takes some work to change the perspective, and some practice and trust on both sides.
Well,
Uh,
working with animals, because I am an animal communicator, I work with horses a lot. And to me, horses, uh, they're the most honest I've ever seen in my life. They're honest and they'll let you know exactly what they feel and they give you insight. I've want because I've done a workshop with horses and people. It's amazing work. I commend this young man because I communicate with animals. Animals are a lot more time to communicate because they don't have the same kind of hang-ups that
mhm.
everybody. Usually the whole problem, and I would like to hear what he has to say. Most of the time when I'm working with somebody, it's always the human that's messing up. It's never the animal. So it's because that we have too many directions and we have too much perspective of a lot of things and not enough experience of anything.
Right.
And experience is, I mean, it masters everything is the experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, and if you haven't had the experience, you have a lot of knowledge, then you don't have the wisdom of the experience then.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is I think this is the most unique thing that we could sit down and you and I, especially teach to people how to really understand how that works. And with animals, with a dog, especially if you're going to change the behavior, not and you're going to have to move that neck. Same thing about humans. We have to move and get the energy back into the right places because it is electrical. It's electrical chemical charge through the
Right.
mind. So, yeah, this is a lot of stuff that goes on. But if you've been given all of your life from your parents, from your town, from it, and you were only told what they told you, look how ignorant we're going to be
Mm.
because you will never, ever see the scope of who you are if you don't have the experiences of different experiences of
Yeah.
when I went to New York. I've only been to New York twice in my life, but the first time I went I was 19 years old and it was a hell of an experience. I mean, I've never
Mm.
experienced anything like that. A man that was dressed in Superman and he was walking on the sidewalk and he turned around and he grabbed me and he said, "I'm Superman." I said, "Only in New York." Uh, I remember I was going, this is not, I'm looking back. I'm 70 years old, but I'm looking back. And I was told by the people that we were there, I wanted to dress up and go to the subway. She said, "No, you can't because they will think you're out of towners." And if you ever saw the movie, The Out of Towners, it's hysterical. But I had a horrible perspective on that. And I thought, so I dressed down. I never really got to be a part of New York that I wanted to be. It was their
Mm.
perspective. See, that's what I'm
Mm.
saying. And this is a good thing for you and I, especially when we do travel together. We go in and we don't look at that place until we go in there ourselves. We might have information and different things, but I feel very clearly that we go in to feel it first from our perspective of not, well, through our perspective, what we are feeling energetically. And I think that's why we are the way we
Right.
is that we really work hard to try to, keep things neutralized so we don't. take our perspectives and override what we're not, overriding things that we shouldn't.
Right. Right. Yeah, good stuff. So, Billy said horse expert relate really well to my methodology. Yeah, yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love working with horses. Horses are, well, and you've got, I don't know if you put that picture of that horse uh, in there.
I could probably pull that up. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I'm telling you, that was the most incredible because he told me, I was in the barn with him when he was acting out, and he told me, he looked right at me and he said, I got to get out of this. I'm in my, I can't, and they had to ask him to, leave because he was rearing up. But he came to me in a dream and told me exactly what to do with him. And I did it.
mm,
And when I popped I pulled his tail, which lined his whole spinal cord up into the back of his neck. He came back up, he flipped back up like that. And I heard it. And that's when he came down and he grabbed, you'll see it. That horse, they were scared to death of him in that barn. Now,
mm,
two women that are going in and being told by and I said, you had to believe because I didn't know this horse. I had never touched this horse. I saw its behavior. And Billy, we changed the perspective immediately. There it is. That horse said to me, thank you. And now is a horse that everybody thought was going to be a real difficult one. And it's working with children.
mm, mm. Yeah, I
It's
remember
amazing.
when that picture was taken.
You
So,
can feel that. He was so grateful. He was a racehorse that somebody just let him off and he was in the walking on the highway. How can people be this way? And this poor horse, and maybe Billy will understand this. He couldn't drop his penis. He hadn't dropped his penis for 2 years. Now that sounds crazy, but he was holding so tight that when he and Grace and I pulled his back and got his alignment, everything dropped, and the woman started crying because she said, "I never thought we'd ever see it," and it changed the entire horse.
so he relaxed. All the tension in his body
Yeah.
relaxed.
Yeah. Oh my, and I didn't realize, I was looking at a horse I didn't even have hands on at the beginning. He had dreamt for he sent a dream to me first. And then I walked into the barn the
Mm,
next day. Now that's a true um, that's not perspective. That is really a reality check. It made me stop and see the greatness in what we all are in that moment because it stopped the entire barn. We had bird swallows up there and everything. Everything just stopped when that horse aligned itself. It
mm.
was amazing.
Yeah, horses, man, they can be used for therapy. Absolutely.
Yeah, and he is a therapy horse now. I mean, what's this saying? Beautiful horse and know very little about horses. I have many clients who have horses experts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you know, everybody, Virginia lives in Kentucky. We're the horse capital of the United States, basically. She lives close to Keeneland, which is a big area where that's why she's big with horses and stuff, you know.
Yeah, and I don't go to the races. I'm usually in the back fields of the races because I work with racehorses. So, and they're traumatized all the time, but we're all traumatized. And I remember when I was telling you, I said, perspective is, I think everybody in the world has got PTSD. And you think about it, we have watched massive things that have happened in our lifetimes. I looked at my 70s when I saw Kennedy shot, Martin Luther King. These are traumatizing things.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then
I
you
mean,
have on top of you those other traumatized. So we're all pretty much got PTSD. So
well,
it's
yeah, I've been exploring that topic for the show for what, a couple months now, where we've been
no, we have,
talking about is the world suffering from a global post-traumatic
yeah.
stress?
Well, there's a
So,
lot of my clients are calling out that they got PTSD or they're narcissists or they're this or they're. I said, how about us just drop down and find out what we really are because those are outside thoughts.
hmm.
Let's find out if that really is the real thought within.
Yeah, let's chat about that for a little bit because what we mean by outside thoughts is like, I mean, there's all this stuff people come to me like, I got all this going on,
Yeah.
and you can they're like talking a million miles an hour, and
Oh my God.
I'm like, okay, now you just gave me all the reasons why you're afraid or all this stuff is going on,
Yeah.
but I want you to really go back and think, where did this start? Like, where
There
did
it
this
is.
start?
There's your
And
origin.
right,
That's
and
your origin.
let's talk about why this is there. And because a lot of people are coming to me. I mean, not just one person. A lot of people are coming to me.
Me too.
I don't like my career anymore. I'm tired of it. I can't take it anymore, and I feel like there's got to be something new in life.
Well, what
And
happened, what are you seeing? What I'm seeing with a lot of them is I'm having to explain generations of uh,
mm,
energy and family stuff. But what I'm saying, it starts all the way down in the womb. I said, your mother and father have electrical, magnetic charges. They have triggers. You heard those triggers. You felt those triggers. You got that information before you ever took a breath. You already had given information. And I said, I can't imagine what it felt like to be pure, a real pure mind that you get to walk out and when your first child, well, when I saw my son Brian, the first time he went to the ocean was his first experience,
mm,
and it was such innocence but such beauty that I even have a statue, because I remember he looked down in his sand prints, or these footprints in the sand, and they would come, they would go, and the look on his face, because these children, these innocent children, have never gotten a prayer because of the damn TV. They don't get they don't get a thought. I mean, have you really seen? I got to see several of my students at St. Leo's when I was teaching. The nun pulled us all out so they could witness a foal being born in a barn. And it was breathtaking to see children. You know, that was a beautiful time. That was not, but that was an innocence that they saw a totally different way. It was a beautiful moment. They were sixth graders, and this was part of their curriculum, is to come and watch this. So it wasn't something we were going against, but to watch these children and then to have them talk about that innocent moment was beautiful. And I did not even relate to it until I started listening to other people talking, and they're just talking bits from, newspapers, what this is. They're not talking about the true innocence of that moment of what they felt, or
mm.
that innocent of that moment. Do you remember the first innocent moment that you ever had? I think mine was when I realized that I was intuitive, and I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and I told my mom and dad we were going to Florida, and I was gonna meet a person with a horse, and I was gonna end up doing this and this and this, and, it ended up being exactly as I saw it, and my father was freaked out by it because
Oh yeah,
he was
yeah.
freaked out.
Yeah,
Uh,
because think about that back in well, even when I was a kid, to even think about my fortunate part is that my great grandmother followed Edgar Casey, and my mother was very open and
so
to
they
that.
were open.
But I mean, still, I mean, it still wasn't all the way up and even to the 90s. If you talked about intuition, people were like, "What are you
Oh
talking
my god.
about?"
Oh,
So,
yeah. Well, when I saw my dad after he died, my mother said, "Don't tell anybody you saw that." Now that was in the '60s, okay? That he died in 1968, and I remember my mother said, "Don't tell anybody you saw that." And I said, and I remember when my third eye literally just closed, it clamped down, and that's when I had the big aha moment at the age of 46.
yeah,
So you have these, but that's not a perspective. That's an experience.
yeah. Well, and I'm talking. One of the things too is that we shut down, and and I was well, you'll teach this kind of stuff where even when we talk about law of attraction or creating your
Right.
reality. And I'll say to people, I say, well, you have to, when it comes to faith and understanding, you have to really the discipline of the mind, when we were talking about at the beginning of the show. And I said, in your mind, because we all do the same thing. And we all go into, hey, it'd be nice to be able to do this, or hey, let's see this, and then we all go into, oh, how am I going to figure that out? Well, I could do this and this and this and this, and then your mind starts going into this long-winded thing, and the energy of the universe goes, wait, what? And so, and I'm like, you used to say to people, yes or no, yes
Yeah.
or no, and you have to get their mind into, and they go into this
And they get mad
explanation.
at me.
They do, because they want to explain. And I'm
Yeah,
like, well,
or
what
they
is
want
it?
to give me their story. I said, you got 5 minutes on your story, and then let's get down to find out why you're there.
We could you could start saying, listen, the clock's ticking, so let's cut to the chase.
Well, and I usually nail it in the first 10 minutes, but I've got to listen to the story. And the
Yeah.
story is not, do you see baby trying to, this is my
Oh
cat.
yeah, yeah. We were talking about animals, so baby had
Yeah,
to go walk
my
around.
baby, a
So
cat, a 22-pound cat keeps wanting me to get, he grounds me. He's thinking that I'm talking too much or something, and he thinks I'm not grounded. He's, he's so funny. So,
yeah,
but that's where I look at this. What we're talking about now is because we've got this is what we're trying to teach people. It's there is a faith in this, but I don't even know what faith means in that. I had to discipline myself, and I had to watch every every little detail meant something to me, and I realized I had been doing A to Z and missing most of my details. So that's why I missed most of my intuitive thoughts, things that I should have seen, but I didn't because
right.
I was too rushing to try to get to the next state of mind. Well, it's really a state of mind, but no, not anymore.
Well, any last minute wisdom we want to give the viewers when we're talking about perspective, our experience?
Being aware, breathing, and when we say breathing, though, I mean really take the breath and push it down into the body to where you can get it all the way down to the tips of your toes, and it will go and you will ground. Those are things that we do every day in divine order, divine timing, divine plan. And most of all, what would it be? Make it easy.
Oh yeah, make it easy.
Make
And
it easy.
that pass. Well, thank you, everybody. Let me just put this up here real quick. My show is on 10 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time on here on the Los Angeles Tribune. And so I'm looking forward to connecting with all you. I got a lot of great shows. Some of the areas I'm exploring this year is, do we suffer from a global post-traumatic stress, and talking about coping skills with that. And I had Dr. Amit Goswami on about a month ago, and several other experts in that area. I'm also going to be talking about the law of attraction, but disciplining the mind with that. That'll be in perspective. So lots of great stuff coming up over the next several months. And everybody, much love, and have a wonderful, wonderful week.
Make it easy.
Make it easy.